Welcome to the Lockdown Economy, a social non-profit initiative by the think tank AlterContacts to help small businesses and self-employed professionals overcome the challenges of the pandemic and reactivate the economy. My name is Karen Rickes, and today our guest is Jorane Cuppen, the founder of Guts to Glory, a chef's management agency. Hello, Jorane. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. This is actually your second interview with Lockdown Economy already. For those of our viewers who are new to Lockdown Economy, could you tell us a bit about your business?
Yeah, so I have a chef's management agency, and it actually entails that I arrange everything around the chef that, well, is part of the job nowadays, but except for the cooking. They still have to do that themselves. But all the events and all the PR marketing related things that are going on right now, that's what I'm actually doing for them, so that they have more time to cook or to be creative or to see how they can fulfill their things or their dreams, and I can help them with that.
Okay, that sounds good. So they can really, focus on what's most important, creating tasty dishes, so to say. Well, I mentioned it before,
Yeah.
this is your second interview with Lockdown Economy already. Could you tell us a bit more about how the pandemic has affected your business since we last spoke?
Well, of course, we entered the second lockdown, and let's hope that next month probably we can open again. But I mean, we're still not sure if that's going to happen. So we're in this lockdown for a pretty long time already. Restaurants are closed, of course, for a pretty long time already. So compared to last time, it's just prolonged, and I think that's also happening in the mind of the chefs. So um, everybody's sort of grasping to the moment where everybody can start again, and to get that light at the end of the tunnel that has been a topic for a long time already. I think last time I spoke here, it was the thing that we were looking for the most, but I think that's still the case.
I see. Yeah, of course, naturally, restaurants, just the sort of HoReCa in general, as of course, among the industries most severely hit by many of the measures of the lockdown, for example. So you mentioned that you sort of, in working together with the chefs that you're working with, that you were really looking for, alternative opportunities until, let's say, we really reached that end of the tunnel. What kind of opportunities did you come across in the last couple of months?
So I've been really focusing on product development, because the thing that chefs have mostly at this moment is time, which means that they can do a lot of things that they normally wouldn't have time for or have less time for. And I think product development or just looking critically at products that you use and trying to swap for better things, that's something that we've been really busy doing with. And a lot of chefs have been doing that recently. So really looking at alternative products or products that are even better than the products that they use at the moment, talking to suppliers, talking to farmers. That's something that's really happening at the moment. So I'm happy for that. And also, I mean, they have a lot of time thinking as well. So I notice a lot of question marks with their career paths, or question marks with the restaurant that they're currently at, or just really thinking if for some chefs, if it's their last trick or not, or for other chefs, if they want to change their career or change their the path that they've been on, because they have time to think about it at this moment. Normally, everybody just keeps on going, and I mean, the long hours necessarily don't really encourage you to think outside or to think further than the current situation that you're in. So I really see that happening a lot. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, of course, the time now has probably given all of us a little more time to reflect on who we are and where we want to go.
Exactly.
So yeah, you mentioned product development in particular. So what kind of products are we talking about? Sort of the supplies for the restaurants, or about sort of making that transition to takeaway products? Could you maybe elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I think actually both. I mean, especially during the first lockdown, a lot of chefs noticed that takeaway is definitely another cookie, as in
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely another business to go in, and it's not just making the same thing and just putting it in a box. That's
Mm-hmm.
just not what takeaway is. So, really thinking how to develop your dishes, or how to develop the things that you think that people want, and
Mm-hmm.
how you can actually make it work in that box for a pretty long time. I mean, if the writer needs to pick it up and you prepared it already in the box, then yeah, that's just a whole other cookie. But also just product development in terms of uh, I mean, everybody's thinking the most chefs already made 3 menus thinking they would open, because
Mm-hmm.
at first it was end of the summer, and then it was winter, and now it's spring already. So they've been making 3 menus probably thinking they would open. And I mean, of course, you need to be there at the beginning. You need to be on top of your game. You need to be
Yeah.
prepared to open again, which also means that you need to think about dishes and new items. So with those new dishes, you have the time to actually think about it and be creative about it, and then also to see how you can use the best product. So I've been going to um, m- farms where we could check some different milks, or farms to uh, compare eggs, or I mean, it sounds really basic, but there are differences in them, and they're pretty big actually. So
Mm-hmm.
it goes from the basic milk, egg, that kind of things to I mean, I've been tasting 6 different oils from the small pits of the strawberries, so
Mm-hmm.
you can crush them. It sounds ridiculous, but there is a difference in them, and it's very specific, and it was for a very specific dish. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have time now to compare it, or to dig deeper into what kind of products there are, or what kind of farmers what the values of the farmers are, or it really depends on the restaurant, of course, but um, I mean, that's where we got time for now.
True that. And personally, I think I would say that, yeah, sort of any trip to a farm these days is also welcome. Yeah, change from being as
Exactly. The change of
exactly being,
scenery is so important.
yeah,
So
for sure.
that's a really nice benefit as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's something of a win-win then, sort of something for the chefs to look forward to, but you also, yeah, gain some nature time with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Sort of in general, of course, you're working very closely together with your chefs, first of all, by nature of your business, but then especially during these crisis times.
yeah.
Could you maybe tell us a bit more about sort of why you think that, yeah, really that partnership with your chefs is so important, especially during these times?
Well, I think last time I spoke already about, I mean, everybody will be there when there's good times. Everybody wants to be involved, be together, do things together. So in good times, everybody's just best friends. But when it's bad times, it's really important to make sure you're there as well, because that's the moment where everybody notices the most. If you're going to focus on yourself, or if you're going to focus on the people around you, it's a big difference.
Mm,
And I think a lot of chefs have been focusing on themselves, and I try to make a difference in that, because I do think that it's really important. I mean, me especially, I know how much their world has been changing. So
mm-hmm,
it's really important to be there for them, and to make sure you have the conversations that are needed, and
mm-hmm,
to support them in any way possible, because their whole schedule has been shifting and turning around quite a lot lately. I mean,
mm-hmm,
we've been thinking about different initiatives and different things, and every time it's a switch again, so there's no structure in a day at all,
mm,
which is something that chefs normally always have, and it's a big change for them. So yeah, just really having those conversations and being there at the right times, and making sure that you're available for them to well, just dump their thoughts, or just to have a small conversation, or to well, highlight some of their concerns, or whatever happens. It really doesn't matter. As soon as you know that you're able, or you're there for them to call them or to call you, then I think that's a big difference that you can make in well, the current situation that we're in, because everybody's just so focused on themselves.
True that. So if I understand correctly, it's really about creating that safe space for the chefs to share their concerns, which of course are probably multifold at this point. I'd be curious to know, because you mentioned that of course many of the chefs are sort of on their own during these times. I'd be curious to know, do you also connect the chefs, some of the chefs you're working with, to each other?
Yeah, and especially with creative. So we've been thinking about different initiatives, of course, not only the boxes things, but also, well, I mean, all the things that you've been seeing happening in the culinary world at the moment, from the dinner boxes to food walks to food tours to, well, anything that you can think of. So it's really important to make sure that they still talk to each other, or that they still have interaction with different people, different creative people. So I try to link them all together. So make sure that there's a photographer or a videographer that well, has the same kind of creativity, or can spark some interest, or can spark some of that creativity, because they're making things together. And that's really nice to see, because that's also, it's not only the change of scenery that happens in that, but also just to have different people to talk to. I mean, they like talking to me, but I'm really happy about that. But sometimes it's good to talk to different creators as well, or talk to, well, different chefs, of course, as well. And I've noticed that a lot of chefs has been using Clubhouse, which is some sort of live podcast, to sort of say. But you can tune in and you can talk, and I've seen it happening a lot, that a lot of chefs are interested in that right now, because they can have a conversation in like a COVID-proof space, because you just do it from your own space, or from your own couch, or but you can have those conversations, and you can see what's going on for everybody, or what's going on for someone specific, or how other people deal with certain issues or situations, or how they keep up the spirit. Or it's really important to have those conversations, and not only with one person, but also, and with their team, but also with people that are or going through the same thing, or have the same kind of mindset, or the same kind of well, or are in a different business but with similar values, for example. I think that's really important.
Yeah, interesting. So again, sort of collaborating, or just getting together with those who have similar experiences, but as you mentioned, maybe also other businesses, just to kind of get maybe different insights, different perspectives. So now we've been talking a lot about the sort of chefs and what's been changing for them. Let's talk a bit more about you and your business. So you mentioned in your last interview, for example, that you were sort of a bit hesitant in a way to, for example, charge the chefs during these times, considering their, let's say, financial fragility during these times. Could you tell us a bit more about sort of what you've done to adapt your business to the crisis?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it last time as well. I think it's really important to think along with the chef, instead of just making money and trying to have that going as long as possible. That's not the I don't think that's a sustainable business focus. At this moment, everybody's just trying to see how they can make money, or trying to see how they can still pay their bills. But next to the personal connection that I mentioned earlier, it's really important to think along, and to see how you can or make money together, so you could both profit, which is a big change from my business model, because I normally really make a goal together with a chef and sign a contract for a minimum of a year, because I do think that you need some time to show results as well. And normally I have a monthly fee, and now that's not happening, of course. So I've been thinking a lot on how I could change my business model to something that would be sustainable in times of COVID, because my normal business model really wasn't, because it's just not going to happen with restaurants that are just stopping all costs, or really focusing on how to actually make some money just to pay their bills that they already have. And well, you just go on top of that. So that's not going to be sustainable at all. So just really, well, thinking about how you could make some boxes, or how you could form a tour, or a food walk, or whatever, just to see how you can help each other in that sense.
Okay, really interesting. And how are you sort of going about staying visible during these times, sort of as a brand, staying connected with also maybe prospective chefs, and just generally staying in touch?
Well, I mean, everybody's doing something, so it's really the focus on making sure people get noticed. If it's the chefs that I'm working with, or the chefs that I'm still in touch with. I mean, the whole point is to have the connection and to show them that you're there as well in bad times. So really making sure that you get their takeaway, or it's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. But I did a lot of takeaway, and a lot of just walking around, visiting, have that small conversation with someone who stands there to get those boxes out, see if you can get a peek in the kitchen, and just ask them how they're doing. I mean, it's such an easy thing to do, but I also noticed that not a lot of people do it, or just, for example, take the box and go out again. But especially in these times, it's so important to have that small conversation, and to check in with someone to see how they're doing, and to see how the takeaway is going, and maybe to give some tips that you got from another chef. Or it's really about helping each other at this point. So I try to get a lot of takeaway, and to have those small conversations, and to comment also on social media on what I see happening, or what I see developing with certain restaurants, or with certain chefs. I mean, with all those initiatives, you just need to be on top of the game and see what's happening in order to respond to it, and to make sure that people also see that you're involved with them, or that you're seeing what's happening, or you're on top of what's happening in your market, or in your industry. So I think that's the main thing that I've been doing to stay visible.
Yeah, really good. And again, I dare say that it's again a win-win for you, so to say, using getting delicious takeaway to actually check in with your chefs. So now that we've talked a lot about how you stay visible, what you're sort of doing in order to manage this crisis together with your chefs. Looking back at the last year of sort of handling the pandemic, what would you say were some of your biggest learnings in handling the crisis?
Well, me myself, I've been through a lot of how do you say that? A lot of stages as well, in terms of you. At first, you really can't believe that everything is going to close. I actually got in some sort of I don't think this is happening situation. So I pretended that COVID wasn't happening at all, that my work would be fine, that everything would be the same. Of course, you can't keep that up for very long, but I tried. And then you get in some sort of accepting phase, and you start thinking on all the things that you can do. At some point, you have the feeling that you thought of everything you could do. And you need to accept the fact as well that if you haven't thought about it, or haven't thought of a new initiative, or haven't thought of a new idea, it's not going to come at some point anymore. So to really accept that, and to keep going, and to stay calm in some sort of way, and just to see what you can do. I mean, I have the feeling that everything, my dad said it, I think a couple of weeks ago in a really nice way. He said everybody's sort of living with their brakes on. So like the brake from the car,
Yeah.
it feels like everybody's moving and moving along, but also not in the pace that you normally want to, or not in the pace that you get the most energy from. So I have the feeling that that's happening, and to really accept the fact that you're going through those phases, and that maybe your day isn't as full or isn't as fulfilling or isn't as planned as the way you wanted to. Just to accept that is something I really needed to learn, and I did actually, because you can't go anywhere, so so you have to.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
I quite like that that comparison, that metaphor. I think that's something I can definitely relate to. I think we all can, just sort of feeling a bit limited or hindered in sort of our progress where we want to go. So I'll definitely keep that image in mind. Jorane, to kind of round off today's interview, could you maybe name 3 things that you could use help with in the next couple of months?
Well, getting that perspective and actually believing that that will happen. I mean, we've been postponing the moment where we could open for such a long time already. It would be nice to have some sort of date to work towards, to have that bit of light at the end of the tunnel. It's still mentioned now, but it's not confirmed, or it's not really looking like it's really going to happen. We still are not sure about that. So just a bit of perspective would be nice. 3 things I need help with. Well, where don't I need help with? I think having more the feeling of doing things together, so that everybody's not that focused on themselves anymore, but just to connect and to talk to each other and see what we can do together instead of what you can do yourself. That would be nice to have in this industry. I mean, everybody's normally really focused on each other and on what's happening in the industry. And I've been seeing that within the hospitality industry, everybody's just been focusing so much on themselves just to survive. And I don't blame them, or I don't blame anybody for that mindset, because I do really understand it. But I think to share things is to multiply things. So that will help a lot, I think, in going on and getting on with business. And well, something I need help with. I think it's a tough question because it's so broad as well. I mean, there are so many things that are happening right now that you could use a hand with. So I find it hard to answer the question, actually, because it's just, it could be anything.
Yeah, I guess that's in a way an answer to my question as well. Just sort of in general, and maybe even a piece of advice to sort of look out for each other and stay in touch, and constantly check if somebody around you could be using help. So in that sense, I quite like the answer, actually. So maybe we can keep it at that. Thank you so much, Jorane, for sharing your insights with us today. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Jorane, do you have any last words to our viewers?
Not really. I think we just need to look out for each other and see how we can get through it. And hopefully we can just open soon and get going. Yeah, would be nice.
Yeah, definitely would be nice. I invite you to, feel free to contact Jorane using any of the links in the description of this video below. I invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. On our channel, you can find many more insights from entrepreneurs in many different countries and business sectors. So please have a look and stay tuned.